Senator Cash.
Thank you, Mr Deputy President. And Senator Thistlethwaite, in his speech, questioned the need for this MPI today. And I have to remind Senator Thistlethwaite that you were at a caucus meeting this morning where your own party was fighting over the absolute disarray that your government has put border protection in Australia. Did you not read the headlines in the paper today? Showdown. Labor rebels rally to sink Gillard's offshore asylum seeker solution. And you question why we have come in here today and raised this as a matter of public importance. Go and have a bit of a chat with Senator Cameron. See how Senator Cameron's feeling today. Have a chat with Senator Marshall. See how Senator Marshall's feeling today. Listen to the talk that's going on in the corridors, because you know that as of the 24th of June last year, which is fondly, or the year before, which was fondly now known as Execution Day, there is a very, very good chance that the Australian public are going to be visiting that day again. Why? Because the Prime Minister, the Prime Minister who replaced Mr Rudd, she said at the time, "I accept that the government has lost track. We'll get it back on track. I have taken control for precisely those purposes." What an absolute joke. What did she take control of? She took control of what was a complete, total and utter mess. A mess on that side. And lo and behold, she has managed to make it even worse. And then the current Prime Minister, and again I use that term very, very loosely, as I know many on the Labor side of politics do, the current Prime Minister has also put on the public record asking the public not to judge her on the way that she became Prime Minister, but on the job that she is doing. Well, I have to say, if the latest news polls are anything to go by, the rumours in the corridors of Parliament House, and we all know what those rumours are. In fact, lo and behold, Senator Farrell walks in, right on cue. The current Prime Minister is about to become the former Prime Minister. And in relation to so many policy failures, this is possibly the greatest policy failure of the Gillard-Labor government. Who can forget? Who can forget Ms Gillard's catch cry when she was the Shadow Minister for Immigration, when she used to say to the opposition, if another boat arrived under our watch, another boatload, another policy failure. That was her mantra. And I ask those on the other side, now that the Prime Minister has notched up a century, it's not a century to be proud of, notched up a century in that 100 boats have now arrived on our shores under that Prime Minister's watch, what is the level of policy failure that is currently engulfing the Prime Minister of Australia? But put aside what I have to say as a coalition senator, because you all expect me to come into this place and you all expect us on this side to criticise you. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at what members of the Labor Party, members of the current Gillard government, have to say about the Prime Minister's mess when it comes to border protection. Let's have a look at what Senator Mark Bishop, a West Australian senator, said to the Australian Online when, oh gosh, he was commenting on the government's mishandling of its botched Malaysian solution. This is what Senator Bishop, a Labor senator, said. The very existence of the government itself was threatened. But he didn't stop there. He went on to say, there appears to be a continuing lack of accountability. Ministers don't seem to take responsibility for their own decision-making and consequences. Well, the Australian public, they must be fully confident of the ministers on the other side when their own Labor senators are actually doubting their own confidence. But let's not stop there. Let's now go to the House of Representatives. Let's see what Labor MP Graham Perrott, what did Mr Perrott say about the government's botched border protection policy? Well, this is what Mr Perrott said. The government needs to take the time to get the policy right. You've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. Haven't we on this side listened to you bleat on and on and on for what is now going into years that you had the policy right? You got it wrong all the time. You had it wrong on every single occasion, and one of your own members in the House of Representatives, at least now he's had the guts to stand up and say to the people of Australia, the government needs to take the time to get it right. An outright admission that to date, when it comes to border protection policy, this government is an absolute failure. But it doesn't stop there. Another Labor senator, Doug Cameron, and of course Senator Cameron is the convener of the left-wing group of the Labor Party. He's on the record, remember, as saying that all of those who sit around him in the Senate, what did he call them? They've become political zombies, too scared to speak their minds. And what has he said about the Malaysian solution? The Malaysian solution, which we know today, the Gillard government, they reaffirmed themselves to it. Despite the legal advice, they have reaffirmed their commitment to the Malaysian solution. What does Doug Cameron, Senator Cameron, say? He says the Malaysian solution was no solution at all. That's a Labor senator, and I understand Senator Marshall was not far behind him. Two Labor senators who stood up in caucus and have said the Malaysian solution is no solution at all. And yet we come into this place today, and what are we subjected to? Unity on the Labor side of politics, the Malaysian solution's going to stop the boats. Well, I hate to tell you, it hasn't stopped the boats yet. They continue to arrive. In fact, if you go back to your offices, you'll probably find that another one's arrived. But the 100th boat, under Prime Minister Gillard's watch, arrived post the Malaysian announcement. But I say to those on the left of the Labor Party, because it's interesting since I've been in this place, there's been this constant tension between the left and the right of the Labor Party. And yet again, what we see today is the left go in and they're all built up and everything, and then what happens? The left, yet again, they have to roll over. Senator Cameron and Senator Marshall have had to roll over. They've had to have their little tummies tickled. They've had to be told to be good boys and to come in here and to tell this place, to tell the Australian public that the Malaysian solution is a solution, when they are on the record as saying it is the complete opposite. But in addition to that, let's have a look at what the newspapers are saying about the Gillard government. If any senator wanted confirmation that the Gillard government's policies are not working and that there is massive dissension in the Labor Party ranks, let's just have a snapshot of the headlines from the last 24 hours. First one, Labor could win if Rudd returns. And I'd like to know Senator Farrell's views on that, quite frankly. Adelaide now, 12th of September. Were you the unnamed source, Senator Farrell? Seriously? Because if you were, put your hand up now. The second one, PM facing Malaysian deadlock, The Australian, the 11th of September. Emergency talks to head off shift to Rudd, The Courier Mail, the 10th of September. Gillard seeks action as smugglers close in, The Australian, the 10th of September. 100th boat on Gillard's watch, The Daily Telegraph, the 10th of September. 100th asylum seeker boat arrives for Julia Gillard, Adelaide Now, the 10th of September. I could go on and I could go on and I could go on. Such is the extent of the failure of this government when it comes to border protection. And I see Senator Farrell's laughing, and I have to say to Senator Farrell, as someone who had his little paws all over Execution Day a year and a half ago, if you thought it was bad under Mr Rudd, what do you honestly think now? What do you honestly think now? This is a Labor Party that is in a complete, total and utter mess when it comes to so many of its policies, but least of all that in relation to border protection. And again, it is not just us on this side of the chamber. The House of Representatives, the Australian Parliament, they themselves condemned the deal, the Malaysian deal. A motion was passed. A motion was passed in the House of Representatives condemning the Gillard-Labor government. And who supported the motion? Adam Bandt. Adam Bandt, in fact, who is in alliance, as we know, with the government, he actually moved the motion. The independents, Andrew Wilkie and Bob Catter, most of which the government actually has to rely on for their support, they actually supported the motion. Despite the Prime Minister's pathetic protestations, under Prime Minister Gillard, Labor has an appalling record when it comes to protecting Australia's borders.